Back for Chapter 5 of I Survived the Attack of the Grizzlies, 1967, by Lauren Tarshis. Again, I don't own the rights to this book, and this is just for your listening enjoyment, so you can keep listening and visualizing things that the author is talking about. Chapter 5. Mel leaped away as the claws whooshed through the air, missing Kevin's cheeks by inches. A shard of glass shot into Mel's arm, but she hardly noticed the pain. Her eyes were glued to the grizzly's paw. The grizzly was reaching through the hole in the door, swiping at the air with its pointed white claws. Each claw was at least 3 inches long. Mel tried not to think of what those claws would do to her flesh or to Kevin's. As if that wasn't horrifying enough, the grizzly thrust its head through the windows. Kevin shrieked and Mel stumbled back. The bear started bashing its paws against the old rattling door. Its dripping wet jaws snapped open and closed. A cloud of the bear's steaming breath rushed up Mel's nose. She gagged. It smelled like rotting meat and vomit. Pops grabbed hold of Mel's arm and pulled her back. "Go away," he shouted at the grizzly. Mel had never heard her grandfather scream so loudly, and somehow it worked. The bear pulled its head out through the door. There was a moment of silence. But then, bam! The entire cabin shook as the bear threw its body against the door. Bam! 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 The wood of the door groaned and cracked. Bam! A lamp crashed to the floor. Bam! The framed picture of the little boy Pops fell onto the ground. Crash! Between each slam, there was a skin-crawling, scratching noise like giant fingernails cutting across a chalkboard. The sound of the bear's claws digging into the wood. Kevin was whimpering in fear, burying his head in Mel's neck. She held him tight. What would happen if the grizzly got inside the cabin? Mel looked frantically around their small room, searching for something she could use to fight back. But it was hopeless. Even though they'd had a loaded rifle within reach, there was no guarantee bullets would stop a grizzly in time. If the grizzly got in there, they would all be doomed. Suddenly, Pop snatched up the dinner bell from the table. It was big and made of brass. He shook it hard right in front of the broken window. Clang, clang, clang! The sound was deafening. Kevin put his hand over his ears. They stood there for 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, waiting for another bam on the door. But the sound never came. Mel held her breath. Pop stood frozen, still holding the bell high in the air. A minute passed. Finally, Pops lowered the bell and let out a big breath. He peered through the broken window. "It's gone," he said. Mel stepped up and looked outside. Pops was right. The bear was nowhere in sight. But its deathly stink still hung in the air. Stay tuned for Chapter 6.